Futurama, they're going at it like 2 packs of gum.
Bender, give us a little privacy.
The future of Futurama appears to be a bright one, and despite mixed responses to a handful of the new episodes, the revival has done exceptionally well overall, so much it has been officially renewed yet again for even more all-new episodes. Maybe there is some truth in what was said in the streaming story.
With an option for 20 more.
Maybe a movie.
Including the episodes due to release in July, there will be a total of 30 more all-new episodes. Futurama really just won't stay dead, and I'm all for it.
Hail science!
With that said, today we'll be concluding my review videos discussing the Hulu revival as we take a look at the mind-splitting season finale all the way down.
It's Bender's all the way down.
All right, I'm going in.
Moving past the god-awful anthology episode that nearly ruined the season in my opinion, we luckily end this run on a very high note. Written by co-creator and showrunner David X. Cohen, if you're familiar with Cohen's previous work, you know to expect above average quality. The writing and concepts used to support his storytelling techniques add exceptional elements of lore to the show, but still keeps things contained within the realm of science fiction. Cohen has written some of my personal favourite episodes, including Season 7's Free Will Hunting, which I felt had a lot in common with this finale. With Bender, we've already explored the existentialism of his personal existence, and whether or not he has free will. Being a robot, he is an artificial intelligence, which raises many questions about how he thinks and feels, and I'd argue Bender ironically is one of the most emotionally varied characters on the show, which may be a deliberate choice by the writers.
Bender, are you crying?
All the Way Down takes similar ideas a step further, but this time they are applied to the known universe. And it's interesting to see the main characters struggle with similar levels of existentialism to what Bender has already been through. Is the world as we know it just a simulation? It very well could be, which is a theory tested by the professor's latest invention. And opening this episode with a low-resolution depiction of Planet Express, it's revealed that Professor Farnsworth has invented a simulation of the entire universe. It may be poorly rendered, but it's taking huge amounts of processing power to keep it alive. But that begs the question though, is the simulation actually alive? Because by definition, this should be viewed as nothing more than an imitation of life. And on a similar level, Bender is also thought of as just an imitation, being an artificial intelligence. And acting somewhat like a catalyst for this story, Amy unintentionally insults Bender with the honest truth.
Imagine how awful it would be to find out your whole personality was just simulated, like Bender's.
I love this argument and how opposed he is to the idea, but he really can't argue with the facts.
Artificial?
Uh-huh, yep.
Why'd you have to tell me? You just ruined my life.
What makes this episode unique is how it deliberately raises these thought-provoking ideas amongst the characters. It's a mostly dialogue-driven story, which even feels unscripted at times. And this is where we see the professor being adamant that the simulation he has created is nothing more, and that there is no possible way the real world could be remotely similar. That is until further evidence presents itself.
Our universe is probably also a simulation. Wow.
One aspect of the show I've always found incredibly inconsistent is Amy Wong's portrayal, especially in line with her working closely with the professor where she is meant to have a PhD in physics, but this only becomes relevant when the plot demands it. And questioning the simulation, I love how Amy's comparison to quantum mechanics starts to enhance the microworld's realism. Even if it's a watered-down reality at low resolution, we start to see the simulated lives just as real. And it's also interesting to see Bender struggle to comprehend that his personality is technically simulated by definition.
Can you think? I don't think so.
The Planet Express crew actively watch what's going on with the microworld, where Bender becomes the most infatuated with this simulation, which is important to the main story and the concept that's used throughout. And I really like this concept that Cohen has centered this episode around. The title is a direct reference to an expression I had never even heard of before called turtles all the way down, and it's a concept adapted to explain an infinite regress that I would recommend reading up on if you are interested. It'd certainly make for one hell of a chat-up line. If the concept of infinity doesn't get a woman going, I guess nothing will. But going back to the story, when the professor complains about a spike in the electricity bill, he chooses to shut down the simulated world, which Bender takes issue with. And sharing a simulated similarity, he goes to all lengths ensuring the microworld will be safe. And it's unusually wholesome to see him passionately care about something like this. We've seen this sort of thing before in episodes like Crimes of the Heart, expressing an unusual similarity with turtles even if there is sort of a selfish string attached. But with Bender being upset that the simulated world is at risk due to running costs, the professor luckily does have a solution. And this is where the crew adds a turbine into the sewage pipes beneath Planet Express, therefore generating free power. And with this, the simulation will not only run for much longer, it will run at a much higher resolution, and since it now looks exactly like the world that we are already familiar with, Amy saying, "Now I care about them," helps to further reinforce their realism. Further admiring the microworld, this is where we are given a big reveal of sorts. If things weren't already confusing enough, the simulation creates its own simulated universe, and like at the beginning of this episode, the simulated professor and Amy debate the question, is the world they know real or simulated? But taking things in a different direction, however, the simulated Amy suggests creating an event that would be deemed impossible for a computer powering their world to simulate. And if they do this, it will overload the power source, proving if they are real. The simulator crew agree to create the conditions of a collapsing magnetic star, which is done to overload their universe. And meanwhile, whilst this is going on, our gnome Bender is very upset about the simulations finding out that they are not real. He wants to tell them himself, rather than them just finding out. And ironically, he knows how hurtful it feels to be called artificial. Is that a simulated feeling? Who knows at this point. But bringing the episode concept full circle, the professor suggests that they could send Bender's programming down into the simulated Bender, who would then be pushed further into the next simulated Bender, making it so it's Bender's all the way down. And so shutting down, Bender goes into the simulation as the other crew approaches the magnetic star, and he's about to spill the shattering news, but Fry interjects very unexpectedly with a coherent speech about why any of this should matter. They can't change their circumstances, therefore, does it really matter if they are not real and if they know whether or not they are real? After all, everything around them is real to them, and with this in mind, I like how the all the way down method becomes a defeating concept. No matter what, it doesn't provide you with a confirmed answer as to whether or not the Futurama universe as we know it is real, it's just an infinitely recursive idea by definition. Further adding to this idea, when it appears that our Bender is dead, he miraculously reboots. But is this the Bender that we know? Like I said before, there is no proper answer, and I love this dark twist ending, implying that the main universe is also a simulation and that the rebooted Bender has been sent from a higher power which is keeping the lights on as we know it. It also begs the question as to whether or not there is a higher life form or variant of the Planet Express crew that is superior, beginning this cycle of creation all the way down. The linearity of time is also brought into question by the end, where the rebooted Bender makes a suggestion to adjust the power source where time moves slower for the simulation, and so by underclocking the processors they will reduce the amount of power needed, but time will run infinitely slower for the simulated universe, but they just won't notice. And holy shit, this was one hell of an episode to wrap my head around. For sure, we've had overall 10 very interesting episodes, a fair mixture of fun and somewhat questionable choices, and despite one episode contributing absolutely nothing of value, I would say this revival has been exactly what I was hoping for. With the renewal that I mentioned at the start of this video, the network appears to agree, breathing even more life into this beloved animated sitcom. Then again, although extremely unlikely, bear in mind these things can change. I mean, look what happened to Inside Job and Netflix.
And here is the White House where... Oh god, it's that drunk again. Avert your eyes, kids!
Yeah, I still haven't forgiven Netflix for that stunt. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, concluding my thoughts on Futurama's first revival run on Hulu. I'm really hoping that this season will get either a DVD or a Blu-ray release, then I can add it to the rest of the collection. That would be incredible. Is it likely to happen? Possible. We've had shows like the Animaniacs reboot get DVD releases, even though they were very bare-bones releases. And I know at certain conventions, I know Billy West, who voices Fry, Zoidberg, and the Professor, etc., he was asking showrunner David X. Cohen about whether or not they will be recording commentary, since they recorded commentary for every episode previously. It's something that I would love to see happen, and I love listening to the audio commentaries for this show. It's something I would highly recommend. If you're a fan of Futurama and you've never delved into the commentaries, you learn a hell of a lot about the show from listening to those. For those that are curious, here is a personal list ranking all 10 episodes from worst to best of the revival. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this revival run. Are you excited for even more episodes of the show coming later this year? Leave me a like if you enjoyed this review, and for more content, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?